Hi, I am the Daniel and I speak for Illumination. Here's another video about the studio. I think the Lorax movie is great and it's very overhated. Even the message that the yacht fighting is better than most. There are problems, I can see that, and judging by some really deleted scenes, this could have been more complex and interesting. But as it is, it's still a good film and Illumination's better half. We'll separate this into parts, with part 4 being the main one, and this video will have spoilers for the film. Lorax is definitely critically disliked, but has a meme legacy. It's not the B-movie ever or even cute, but there's that type of culture that fits the movie. It's mainly with the Yet It Grow song. Anyway, let me explain why Lorax 2012 works. It will be 10 years old later this year. The Lorax parts are better. Part 1. The Lorax parts are better. First, I'll look at the original Lorax short for comparison. It might just be because I watched the movie first, but the original special is way worse. Despite only being 20 minutes, it is very dragged out. There's a separate song for each feature animals moving away, and the total is about 3 minutes. The scene when the Lorax are going on the conveyor belt is an example of that. Also, I don't like how this portrays the main two characters. Lorax is like, oh please, don't cut down the trees. I only just realised in recording that rhymes. He isn't someone you'd associate with speaking for the trees when he doesn't argue about it. And there's the one here who doesn't change except for the end. I see this as a problem because the point should be how people get consumed by this, while he'll always like that from the start. Once you're being faces makes him seem inhuman, not relatable, because it takes a big interpretation to think I could become like that. And that makes the redemption not feel earned. It's not an awful special. I get the point and some lines are greatly written, but it is quite weak. The movie is very better in my opinion. There's two plots going on, I'll discuss them separately. These parts are flashbacks and split up a bit so it doesn't spend too much time on one part. Connected by Ted going to see a grown-up once here, like what happened in the original with Unnamed Child. This grown version of the character is mysterious to show what he's become. The flashback shows he's be upbeat and optimistic. This gives the character a personality, but that shouldn't make him less relatable to the viewers. He had a creative and inventive product idea, and he got corrupted by the system and became someone almost entirely different. I'll talk about it more in a second about the movie's message, but this version of the character works a lot better. Lorax is no longer the main character, just a title character for the meaning. He gets summoned and properly speaks for the trees by trying to stop the ones yet instead of being off to the side. This is entertaining as the interaction between them carry the movie in comedy, heart and meaning. It's funny how they both play off each other, when in the original they barely even knew each other. I get that it was about how they are connected in a greater way, but the movie's version works so much better. They start off hating each other because the Lorax was annoyed at how they wanted to cut down a tree. After they become almost friends, or acquaintances as the Lorax calls it, this only lasts for 5 minutes, but it feels like a major part of the story that they were almost friends. This adds on to how the Lorax are trying to stop the Ontia, and gives more depth to who the Ontia became. It's not that the one two was always that way. The tone for most of the movie is very happy and upbeat, where you're comedy, while the original is soft and darker. However, this film will take itself seriously, and I think it's done better when contrasted against the rest of the movie's tone. How bad can a basic example of an upbeat song being played during all this happening, but the scene after is more serious? The staircase scene is great in cinematography, but also means more. The final tree being cut down causes dark lighting and complete silence really leaves an impact. Similar to how the Bontier reacts realizing what he's done, the animal sees silence here without needing a song in the background, and the Lorax leaving with the word yes on the stones. That scene can be felt. The ending when the Lorax came back is very happy sad and shows how they had a bond throughout the story. Someone could argue an ambiguous end is better, making the audience see the world isn't fixed. However, I think we still don't properly know what happened and whether one scene can be enough. These parts are more serious but still have mostly comedy. The animals are there to make noise and slapstick in an Illumination-like way. Though this was part of the early lineup, on that topic it's quite good for a studio's early films. This is probably the most experimental Illumination movie, but even as an offender I can admit that's by default. Animation looked bright with the trees being wonderful and uplifting. There's a light green for the natural world, but dark green for corporations, like the thieves the ones you only put on later in the story. The room we see inside his business uses an ominous shade of green, which looks vastly different from the natural world we saw earlier. This helps show the transformation in growths. The human designs are mediocre, that's more point in the wraparound. These parts are superb have been entertaining and it's not even dragged out. I don't think this wasted time on stuff. Some may argue that the original had way more focus on the Wanted business growing. That's true, but I don't see how this is an issue. You don't need to know the impact on what the Wanted did to the people. To fill time, this movie used wraparounds that aren't the best, but some of it works, so let's discuss that. Part 2, the wraparounds are okay. While not as good as Lorax parts, I think the wraparounds still fit the movie's tone and aren't out of place. It takes place in a town called Threadville. Place with no air in the atmosphere, but it seems fine. Guess it makes sense why they had to be breathing fine to talk to each other. We sell bottled air and trees are ran by batteries. This whole place consumerized and fakes, but presented like utopia. In the opening narration, the Yorok described how they acted that way, not noticing the issue. The main character drawing these parts is Ted, whose motivations aren't rootable. He could have worked in motivation started because of Audrey, but the story changed him as it went on. He wanted trees back for himself. He leaves town and sees the world outside and realizes the fakeness of Threadville. After hearing what happened from the Wantier, he wants it changed. If that did happen in the movie, it's not obvious his motivation even changed. In a cut song, not that one, Ted starts singing and wanting lots of things, and the film should have made Ted a product of his world. He could yearn before doing anything serious and be a parallel to the Wantier. The way the film presents it, they aren't similar at all. Ted is so boring, he's trying to be an everyman for the audience, and isn't interesting. It looks like a way to remove hate from humans so you don't think they are damaging the world. If Ted was made a contrast to the Wantier, then these parts could almost be as good as the Yorvax parts. There's also Audrey, whose appearance is mysterious but not in a good way. How does she know about trees? There's no clue given. There's little personality to her, and the drum at the back of her house gets censored by her hair. This could be interesting to show the authoritarian anti-free speech of Threadville, but it amounts to nothing. The movie wouldn't change if that was cut. Ted finds out about the Wantier from Granny Norma, who's old enough to remember trees. I've been mostly negative so far in this part, but she is carrying this half of the movie. She is funny and is trying to help Ted in many ways in the film. It implies she knew the Wantier, but unlike with Audrey, I can go without knowing how. In the climax, she starts skiing and unlocks unlimited speed. The song Yet to Grow gave her a verse, but she hits her head with a walking stick. Later during his verse, her facial expressions show she isn't buying anything he is trying to say. Such a great character. Ted goes to hear the story in 3 different trips. One time he's almost stopped by her but still goes. Once he gives him a seed and then starts the climax. While the old message was bleak to show the world needs to be fixed. However, this scene is fun to watch, and the main thing you need to do is to convince people that they need trees. Ted does this by showing the wall and showing them what needs to be done in the form of a song. He starts with Sai, who is another great character. He is just a yippee guy who we don't even know at first. He backs up the main characters and thinks trees could be worth a try and is open-minded, which leads to everyone else singing. This is uplifting if a bit unrealistic, but I don't mind about that. This has lower stakes and attacks our younger audience, but it still ties together with what I call the main plot. I talk about them in separate parts, but they can coexist in the same movie, although one part is more mixed. The animation does a good job being bright and representing the plastic fakeness of this world, as well as the backgrounds in town. The human designs are a problem, but it's forgivable since early in the studio. It's clear they improved at animating the Grinch, because that movie was brilliant animation. Feels like there's one big thing I haven't talked about yet. Oh, hair. He is a one-note businessman who is the big villain. I would call him a straw man, but it's not really one if I'm being honest. He has some funny moments and lines, and isn't exactly a boring villain. Some arguments he tries to make can show points with motivations being fueled by business over the people's needs. His implied death is missing from the villain death list, because being tied to a jetpack is quite dark. O'Hare is more written and is bland. But I think he's a bit too hated. He contrasts the ones here who started going got corrupt in the system. It shows the difference between them, but more on that later. These parts of the movie are okay, but nothing special. I wouldn't mind 4 Lorax if it expanded and kept biggering route. This doesn't hinder the movie. I wouldn't cut it out of the movie because there's still a lot good from it, especially Sai. Part 4, Comedy and Music. This movie is funny. There's some pop culture references to show the movie is 10 years old, but it's little enough to be ignored. Other animated films will completely shoehorn the film with this to pander general audiences, while Illumination isn't immune to this, it's yes and others in a similar category. The Lorax has jokes that don't work, but the part that stands out is the interactions. The Lorax and the Onesie especially is the main one focused on. The dialogue is well written. Don't want this to be a list of great lines, but just know there are many that are memorable. I might be biased because I watched this film a lot, but the comedy is still great. The often can only talk about comedy for so long since it's subjective, so I combine this with music section. Score in this movie is very good at building the atmosphere. It's mostly upbeat, like the track discovering the trees and animals eating marshmallows, but the score can also be action-packed and somber depending on the scene. Matched animation colouring too, it does a good job of setting up the scene. Now the songs don't seem traditional musical like, aside from the whole town song at the start and end. That is a fair, they are still not typical music like, it's more pop songs inspired to still fit the movie and its tone greatly. The best song was cut from the movie and I wish there was more like Bigger Ring, although that looks like it's from a different movie. However, I still like the approach of the songs that are actually in the movie. First, Sneedville was the happy opening group number that starts the film on an amazing start. There's many great lines, especially how the Angelica sing parking yachts. This is the places clearly the weakest song. The movie version is too short and the soundtrack version goes on for way too long. It's okay, but not as great as other songs in this movie. Everybody Needs to Feed is a pretty good song, although nothing special. So why is that cat feel so bad? The animals in this film look good. Then we go to How Bad Can It Be? While Big Makes Better as a grand piece with a deep message. This still sounds great and goes up in intensity throughout the song. The climax gets better with the visuals that are very creative. The message still works or not as well, because it shows the ignorance and denial of the ones here. Could be better if there was a first verse, where he's actually wondering how bad can he be. I would have liked the animals to stay behind him for longer before his family replaced them. That would be a good job there showing the change. How bad can he be is still interesting and great to listen to. Epic Road, the movie version, also has many great lines and moments. The verses help make this song amazing. It deserved its meme status, and it is the best yet song from the early 2010s animated movies. It's not even that much of a competition. Creator a pop song also titled Yet It Grow, there's different gimmicks and music. It also like this, and that's not just the cover from the credits. This is a great movie that is heavily criticised for a bit of other reasons, but it's mostly for the message that I actually think is handled better than your other environmental or anti-business messages. Part 4, the message works but could have been better. A lot of people have said that the original message is done way better because the ones you're being faced with makes it easier for the audience to project onto. However, the ones you're being always like start with your change isn't going to connect general audiences. It takes a deep understanding of the message to take away that. The ones you're being faced with makes them seem inhuman and separate from the audience. I previously brought up about giving the ones you're faced with better in my rank of Illumination films, and I got a comment on my video about it. He said he wasn't supposed to be a charismatic villain, although that wasn't my point, and him having a personality and moves debatability from the character. Disagree with this, because you don't need to be similar to relate to his story, and say how discontented act. While in the original story you can't do that. The comment also said that the movie creates a clear bad guy to put all blame on, and the film does this yes in the original. If anything, you could argue this film is way too nice to the ones here, and shifts the blame to the family and the consumers. If it's a reply to this comment that summarizes why humanizing the ones here shows that anyone can be consumed under capitalism. His reply points out how he's morally grey and redeems himself later on. The most important part is how he was once a moral person. This shows the people involved in these acts weren't always like the other completely bad. Some are, I prefer this version of some more creative idea becoming like this over someone extremely corporate minded. Creating a distant or good and bad dichotomy isn't going to be a good thing. Some people will think that they're on the good side because they aren't like them and ignore how what they are doing causes effects. I think the A version of the ones here would watch the original Lorax and think, I'm not on that level, so how bad can I be? That song is about the ignorance of people like this, and this causes the realizations need to mean a lot. Good people, or want good people, can get involved in things like this too, sometimes unknowingly. The message of this film is called simplistic, and while it is on first glance, it goes a lot more depth on the reasoning why something happened. It is considering the average person as way better than most environmental messages. The message is overhated, but there's still some problems with this. I recommend watching a video by the Sin Squad about the cut song that could have saved the Wantia. Their yucks are positives as well. They made a good point about how the movie perpetuates businesses pretending to be unaware of what they are doing. How bad can it be could be interpreted that. I think it's unintentional but still a problem. Wantia being sympathetic works from a story reason, adds complexness, and could be a real situation, but feels businessmen who came to be an underdog. Once you're trying an idea that no one liked at first, but soon his business grew and grew. You can imagine documentaries about that. But there's still comparison and parallel to O'Hare. He isn't a well-written character, but shows not all like the ones here. Some are greedy, but some do what they do for pride. Which leads us to Biggering. It's a good song that's a full 5 minutes long. The only version out is still in storyboards. This song isn't about the progression of the ones here, but what happened after with an epic song that the Lorax also into. It isn't going to be a fully nice at that song, but I could if you want me to make one. This is just going to be looking at how it would tie to the movie. Shows a lot more awareness from the ones yet that could have stood the point of defending businessmen. With the line, who cares if some things are dying? I would argue the film could still do the realization, but make it more about he's not processed what's been happening while still being aware of it. Of a snapback to reality moment. It's a story of regret, and this would add to it. The cut song also shows the dark real corporation problems in a serious and intense way. The film's great the way it is, but could have been a masterpiece. Even so, it still handles the message well for the most part. It's not amazing, but still good. So, why else is this movie's message so hated? Well, the movie was made by Illumination Entertainment, who get massively hated for all but one thing they made. Not all complain to this, but I think it leads to some of it. Complaints about the movie have definitely grown over the years since 2012. The message is constantly called hypocritical, for coming from a big studio that was only their third movie. By the time Despicable Me came out, the film was around half done. And even when it came out, the studio couldn't be called successful by one movie. There's also the advertising that puts the one-year proofs in everything, not seeing the irony of how it's used in the movie. This is very dumb, but not part of the actual film, so it should be separated. I think the movie works. It's far from perfect, but it will defend it from criticism in a young film and ISIS video. This was a lot longer than I expected. Part 5 Conclusion. In conclusion, I am a Illumination offender and done it in 4 or 5 videos that some may think I'm milking it, but these are my genuine opinions. I am not free from biases, I can admit that, but at the same time, your people are biased against Illumination, even more so. And it's over other similar animation studios that are yes successful. If one of their movies was made by DreamWorks or Blue Sky, it wouldn't be as hated. Goes the other way too, where if an average DreamWorks movie was made by Illumination, it would be very hated. Not referring to anyone or specific people, just general opinions. Illumination doesn't make visionary movies, but that doesn't change how they are good in my opinion. If you're wondering why I'm still keeping this up, then I'll look at a quote from the original Lorax. If I don't do it, someone else would. Now flip it, because it's rare to find big reviews defending Illumination so strongly, and the odd other defenders I've seen are extreme about it. I'm not milking this. No commenters said that, but I'm getting some may have thought that looking at my channel. If I wanted views, I'll just make the 200th Illumination's bad video. And say how it's killing the industry for some reason. I am just sharing my opinion, but this will be the last big one, because out of the top 4 best, the first Despicable Me is already liked. I might make more nicer videos with Illumination, but won't be as positive as this. The Lorax is great, and reviewing nice videos are my favourite to make, because I like explaining why a film is great. I hope you enjoyed this video that I've been thinking about for a while. Some more videos coming soon. The end.